Expectedly, everyone is doing a review in the last days of 2023. Now, before then, we did see the AMBAN Association of Mobile Money Agents. They also did a review for the year and saw some areas which they think could be improved upon. Well, let's talk more about the e-payment ecosystem right here with former Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria Interbank Settlement System PLC, that's NIPS. He was the CEO from 1996 to 2011. So I guess this is a whole load of information for us. Mr. Paul Lawal, thank you so much and compliments of this season.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So you were in charge of NIPS, overseeing, this area from 1996 to 2011, a long time. Could you compare that period and now? We know that a lot of lapses came to the fore in 2020 with the COVID, and we saw, a lot of downtime. But share with us your observations from 1996. How much have we improved in the country?
Yeah, thank you. Nigeria has moved very much forward in the electronic payment space. 1996, everything that has to do with electronic payments has to do with technology, has to do with computer technology, that is, has to do with telecommunications, has to do with banking systems, and also what you call payment system applications. Now, there is no way you can drive an effective electronic payment without good technology, especially telecoms technology and computer technology, IT. Back in 1996, Nigeria just had 40 lines. 40,000 mobile lines, 40,000 mobile lines. And so that cannot do much in electronic payment. So we had to grow from the paper-based interbank system into real-time system that we have now. Also then, clearing systems used to be like between states, can take you 3 weeks. Because the means to communicate the transactions electronically was not available. Telecoms was that, mobile phone was not, it was just Nitel that had a few lines for the whole country, like 40,000 lines. And so there was limitation where we started. So we moved from paper-based, and then we took it from into paper and electronic. Then what we now have that what we call real-time payment. What we call NIPS, that's Nigeria Interbank, Nigeria Interbank instant payment system. Okay, now you will notice your check leaves. You have some lines underneath your check leaves. These are called MICR lines, magnetic ink character recognition lines. For many years, we're carrying those check leaves, and those lines were irrelevant. So we're printing them, but they did not help to facilitate quick payments of interbank or any check-based payments until the telecoms area got opened up, and then we now created what we called NACS, Nigeria Automated Clearing House, NACHS, Nigeria Automated Clearing House. And that Nigeria Automated Clearing House captured all the lines, all the magnetic lines on your checks. So today, if you give somebody a check, in 2 days, the third day you can draw the money. Before that could take you 3 weeks. Between two states, all over the nation now, anywhere in Nigeria, you can get your money on the third day. So that took care of check. Interbank payments, anytime you do any transaction, if it's not your own bank, then it means two banks must move money between themselves. They don't really move cash. All those transactions go through NIPS, and NIPS, using electronic means, make sure that these funds move between banks. And today, we have one of the fastest interbank payments even in the world.
Do we really?
In the world.
Do we really? Because yes, I still experience some transactions between banks where you'll be debited and, the receiving party has not received, you still have those downtime and failed transactions or even delayed transactions. I don't know when you say we are the fastest in the world. That's difficult to imagine.
No. I'm talking of the system in place.
Okay.
Attained the fastest pace you can get. That's what we call Nigeria instant payment system, instant payment. But let me tell you, there is no way you can do electronic payment, like I said earlier, without depending on telecoms, without depending on the capacity to process, with the computer capacity. So I also had personal experience over the weekend. I did some transfers and it did not go in from my bank. It did not go to the location, you know. All of this are dependent on the national infrastructure. Okay, we had, but with the pressure on the system, there is a need for the complementary facilities to be improved on. Not that the system is not in place. You understand me?
So help us to understand now. When a transaction is initiated,
okay,
and then a party is debited, but the receiving party does not have it, what happens? What's going on? And sometimes it doesn't get rectified. People have had to forego, money because of that. Sometimes, eventually, an individual has to go to a bank, make complaints. And so please explain to us the process in between and what happens.
Okay. Now, as I did say, we have a faster system, but as fast as it could be, the system is in place. But how efficient is it? That's what we're talking about. Now, what happens is this: when you initiate a transaction, say you are in A bank, you want to send money to someone in B bank. Immediately you initiate that transaction, it goes into a middle system, which we call the Nigeria Central Switch. The Nigeria Central Switch was created by NIPS, Nigeria Interbank Settlement System. The Central Switch is connected to the processing system of every bank and all major clearing houses, like switches. Now, when you initiate your transfer from your bank, Bank A, that transaction goes straight to the central system, the Nigeria Central, the clearing house, the Nigeria Central Switch. The Central Switch will debit your bank because it's you that want to move money. By the way, you can only transfer, you cannot debit anybody. You can say, debit me. When you are debited, your funds are moved to another party. That's your intention. So that funds is debited to your bank and then credited to the receiving bank. That's what the central clearing house does, the central switch. Now,
who controls that central?
NIPS does that. Now, in between all the parties, there is telecoms, because these are not physical. When you initiate the transfer from your phone, you may not even have network to get into your banking app. Sometimes some banks these days, you can't even open the app. All right? When you open the app and you do what you said you've done, the much you know is that you have executed a transaction. But has your transaction moved even to the Nigeria clearing house? Has it moved to the central switch, which is developed and managed by NIPS? Has it gotten there? You don't know. But if it even gets there, NIPS immediately nobody meddles with it. It's an automated system. NIPS will debit your bank that so account number has done this, will inform your system. Your system is informed automatically because the NIPS system is linked to the general ledger of your bank, of all the banks. And so your account will be debited. The receiving party in Bank B, that bank is also credited. And automatically, the system of that bank should credit the receiving person. Now, in between all of this, in all these interfaces, depend on telecoms. It depends on the efficiency of the telecoms, the computer system, the banking application of your bank, the central switch, and also the receiving bank system as well.
But why is it that, if everything is in the middle is NIPS, and of course you have the telecoms connecting,
yes,
but it does seem that there are some banks through which you can have a more efficient service compared to some others. If they have the same infrastructure, why does it come through that way?
Now, you can be very intelligent. You can be one of the best teachers in the world, and you're teaching a class. Some of the students will do well. Some may even fail their exams. So this is how it goes. Your bank can be very efficient. The receiving bank may also be efficient in terms of their app, in terms of their processing system. But it could be they have issues with their receiving setting. Okay? So, okay, that's one. The other aspect is this. The multiplicity that is created, we're not going behind the multiplicity of participating institutions in the payment space in a very short time has led to several cross transactions that need very efficient overlays behind things that needs things to move much faster than before. When we started the system, we had banks that can reach the central switch. Okay, a few banks. Other banks were queuing. Those banks we call clearing banks. Other banks were queuing behind them. Later, all banks had that space. Now we're having many payments companies that are coming up, Memo, all sorts are coming up every day. Okay, and because of this, each of them is like a system that's as good as every other party. If I am very efficient and the receiving party has an issue, then there can be a hitch. But there is no way you will transfer money, your account is debited, and your funds will not be, because it can be tracked. If your account is debited, then it means it has gotten into the intermediary, which is the Nigeria Central Switch, and that your bank can ask for the trail of the transaction. Under no circumstance should anybody transfer funds and then you are debited and your fund will not be refunded.
So what can someone do? Because trust me, there are so many people that go through this.
Yes.
They are debited, the receiving party has not been credited, and perhaps, of course, if you go to your account or your bank, they show you your statement, you see that you have been debited.
That's
but
correct.
The other party has not been credited. So, you don't know where to go to.
I appreciate what they're saying. That you're debited, there is no place to go other than your bank. In all situations, you will not expect individual bank customers to go to NIPS or to go to another bank. You go to your bank and your customer services the customer service department of your bank should attend to the matter. Okay? I think in this space, there's need for regulation, further regulation. There should be a time limit if an account is debited. But the issue is, you just need to get a confirmation from the receiving bank that it has not been credited to them. And the rest should be a matter of resolving within the banking system. I must say, this is not expected to be so. It wasn't so when it got started. But, everything in Nigeria, so many companies...
You think there's fraud somewhere in between there?
No, it's not fraud. It is the fact that, like I said, so many parties. The other day I wanted to send money to a town union, and I understand the union itself is participating on the switch. The bank, the local bank, the community bank is participating on the local switch. Even in America, you have few clearing banks, but in Nigeria, that's why I said the number of companies that are facilitating payments. So many payment companies are coming in Nigeria. So many. We have over 100. It's not just banks now. Okay? And each of them must be as efficient as the other, because these are common facilities that are being shared. No matter how efficient your bank is and you execute your transaction, then it will depend on the efficiency of others for the receiver to get the funds. So what am I saying? There is a need for the telecoms the processes between these banks, depending on the type of transactions, to come up with certain regulations that will cause a reversal to take place in a very short time. The customer is not supposed to be involved in all these details, like you transfer money and it never moved from your account. You know, that in some cases did not even leave your bank. Some cases it debited to your bank, it never got to the receiving bank because of the interfaces between these parties.
So the banks have to live up to expectation. The banks have to, because as you said, customers cannot go to NIPS.
No.
They can only go to their banks.
Yes.
So the bank's customer service should be able to handle that. Just as we expect also from the banks that, for instance, someone's ATM card is stolen and then it's being used by another individual, and then, you even call the bank to try to stop transactions. First, you have to get to a switch or customer service. I'll tell you, okay, hold on. And while you're holding on, money is being, I think there should be a way to try to protect customers, or even if it's done, a way to, when the money is transferred, you should be able to trace it. We have BVN, we have a structure now, but banks hardly help. Is it a policy thing?
Yeah, here and there. Now, in any system, you must have regulation. You have policy, you have regulation, and within the regulation, there should be time lags and also penalties for not doing what you're supposed to do. The points you're making are very real. There are people, they lose their card. All those should be hotline. Many of them, from your bank, you want to say, I lost my card. I need to put if it is press 1, if you press 2, and then just put automated machine, you'll be talking about a machine. There may be need for a central service that can stop a card in that level, you understand, after passing through your bank. And then there things could be done. Regulation is there that once you get information, that card should be blocked. It can be done. Okay, immediately the information, but they must know that information is credible. That's why you go through your bank. Okay, so that is that. Number 2, in the area of not getting your credit on time, there should be a time limit in which your credit should be hanging, your transaction, your account should be debited without the counterparty receiving it. These are, fine details, which depends on telecoms, which depends on regulations, which depends on cooperation among the parties that are in the payment space.
So moving forward now to 2024, you seem happy with our pace of growth in the e-payment ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Are we doing our best? Are there some other? I know when we dig deep, you see infrastructure is also, something that should be given attention to. But are we comfortable where we are? Can we compare ourselves to our peer and say that we are actually doing well?
Yeah. Now, in terms of available infrastructure, payment infrastructure, we have it in Nigeria. But in terms of the efficiency of the payment infrastructure, there is still room for improvement, a lot of room for improvement. And this is because, like I said, the participants in the payment space have grown a lot. And you must identify each participant in all details, talk less of the transaction types. Okay? And so that there's a need for improvement. There is need for improvement in terms of the rate at which transactions are delivered, especially this kind of thing. I think that there should be central clearing, central handling of complaints. There also should be insurance for lost cards, debits and stuff. Banks should have that. In some realm, in some climes, you cannot lose money through credit card. You cannot lose money. Once it happens, the bank will have insured against that. If you give the information from the time you give information to your bank, you should not be liable again. So there is room for regulation. There is room for more interaction among the players in the market, for self-regulation, and also for central bank intervention.
And recently, NIB slashed their transaction fee. I was a little bit of relief for Nigerians. We do hope that it stays that way. That was in July.
Okay.
I don't know if we're expecting another movement anytime soon.
NIB slashing transaction fee is maybe because there are more players in the space. And so when you have not many of the participation and many of the phases that the transaction go through, you don't need to know what's happening. And maybe because there are some investment going on that has to be paid for, they will slash the transaction fee. Their transaction fee will be slashed with the view of reducing the overhead overall, or reducing their own profit to allow the efficiency to be improved in between the bank, the paying bank, and the receiving bank. So much of what we need now will be to have an improvement in the telecommunications, improvement on interbank and inter-payment participants infrastructure, and a lot of that needs to, because lately we're having transactions hanging up, debits not being delivered, this not being done. That was not so. I'm sure even you would know that, like a year ago, it wasn't that frequent.
Because demand is much now. A lot of people have turned to e-payment.
Yeah, I just told you. I just mentioned it, that many companies are in e-payment. Even this company that was doing motorcycle dispatch, OPay, it's now one of the most popular payment platforms. OPay in Nigeria started with motorcycle share, but now they may be one of the biggest, POS transaction delivery, even online accounts. Non-bank, they are not really banks, as in you have a bank.
Digital banks.
Excuse me?
Digital banks.
They're just digital banks. And with this, you see, we adopt a system, and then like Nigeria, it's like fashion. So everybody's rushing into the payment space. When you have many players, then you need to improve the interaction between these players. Because this system is such that if any component of the system it has a lapse, it will affect the whole system. So there's a need, as we're growing in the numbers of players, there's a need to find ways to fine-tune the efficiency of each of the players. I guess there's a room to play.
All right. Well, we do hope that efficiency, as you said, infrastructure is there. Is the efficient usage of that infrastructure is what we really need. We hope we'll see that in 2024.
We hope so.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paul, our former Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, PLC.
Thank you
for your time.
Nice to be with you.
And compliments once again.